Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ranting Atheist podcast. Today we'll be listening to the deconversion story of a fellow Nigerian atheist who was raised Anglican. Though he had his doubts, or he had doubts growing up a lot. But in this Nigeria, questioning is a taboo. You dare not question. How dare you? But it was until he left Nigeria, until the Jackpa, before he finally had the opportunity to see different perspectives. The possibility that people exist that don't even believe in this religion thing. And that helped him to have an open mind, which led to him becoming an unbeliever. So if you're here to subscribe, please consider subscribing on Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Deezer, Amazon Music, many platforms. Check out the pod page link below in the description. So now, let's go and listen to the deconversion story of African Apostate. Hello, bro, and you're welcome to Story of an Atheist.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. We finally got this going. I can't remember. When was it I reached out to you? It's been a few months now, hasn't it?
I tell you, last year.
That's the way it goes.
It might be around September, maybe.
Well, that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. But
I wrote it down on my notes. So I was before this year goes by now, make we plan this thing before imagine.
That's how it goes. Anyway.
So, Mr. African Apostate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's who we are speaking with. And
indeed.
Just like be Ranting Atheist, we need to be lucky to an extent.
To a very large extent in my case, but we'll get into that.
Oh boy, don't be sporting. So, listener, I would like to know a little more about you that you are comfortable with. Your location. Okay. Now, with age, are you millennial? Are you Gen Z? Are you Gen X?
Okay, well, that one is a little bit. Basically, it depends on which year you start counting from. But I am either a very young Gen X or very old millennial, depending on which year you start counting.
That means it's exennial. It might be an exennial
ish, basically. So yes, I'm kind of tucked in between the two, so I can relate to both in certain ways. Basically,
the dial is always swinging. Sometimes they push it back, they push it forward.
Exactly. Anybody that's paying attention, I just narrowed down my birth year to about a 3 to 5 year window. But let's just say I'm in my early 40s.
Oh, nice. Great to have you here. So, do you care to share what you do for a living? Are you single? Are you available? Do you want us to know that?
Well, I am. Well, not recently. It's been a few years now, but I am single. I've been married and divorced, so that's kind of where we are now.
Okay.
I'm living and working in the UK, but I grew up in Lagos.
Correct.
Yeah, the Surulere boy. What can I say?
Would you like bad people?
Well, more like Shita, but that one is a whole different story. Well, you know what I mean.
Nice one. Go easy.
That's what it is, bro.
Let me see now. What do you currently identify as? Is it in the whole religious spectrum? Is it atheist? Is it religious? Agnostic, or you decide not to take any label in particular?
I will say atheist, but I'll qualify it and say agnostic atheist. So I am functionally an atheist. I am not convinced that any god or gods exist. In fact, I'm not convinced that anything supernatural exists. But if anybody has any proof that they want to show me that is compelling and convincing, I will listen. I am not sitting there saying that it's not possible that God exists. But until now, I haven't seen anything that convinces me that God exists. So functionally, I'm an atheist, but I would describe myself as an agnostic atheist because I'm still open to be convinced if anybody has evidence. So far, everybody who claims to, I just failed.
Yeah, me too. I'm too open to evidence that Spider-Man is real. So like the MCU, I really want to see Doctor Strange and Co. Wish that word was real and not all the bullshit of juju.
Oh boy, I say that word is probably more plausible than the whole sort of you see after you die word that they keep trying to sell us. But
now come to my village people.
you know those ones.
Okay, so let's go into your religious background. Give us the full lowdown. What did they baptize you with? Were they choking with the Bible? And
well,
so,
I mean,
were you Leko Sanda Baba Sanda Holy Ghost filled?
On that I was actually a teenager before the first time I saw somebody praying in tongues. Right. I grew up in an Anglican church, Church of England as they call it here. Right. Okay. And our services were very formal, sort of stand up, sing hymn, sit down, read from your prayer book, sort of thing. That was what I was raised in, right? And it was only after when I was like 8 or 9 years old that my dad sort of started to allow us to go to church with my uncles and aunties. And that was when we started to see, that was the first time I went to Pentecostal church. The whole sort of praise and worship was very alien to me when I first saw it, but you know what I mean? You do what you have to do. And I think, like I said, I must have been maybe 12 or 13 the first time I saw somebody shabalabalobalaba, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I tell you what, it was clear to me the first time I saw it that this is fake as fuck. It was clear to me that it was fake, right? I was never convinced about the whole praying in tongues thing, even though I believed in God at the time. That to me was just obviously fake. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's that. So I was raised in Anglican Church. I was confirmed at around 13, 14 years old. In our church, you had to go to confirmation class. So that not only did church steal my Sundays for that summer. Last summer they basically stole my Saturdays as well to go to confirmation classes. That was Jesus Christ. Anyway,
this Anglican is like the Catholic, the English Catholic version.
It's very similar to the Catholics, but a lot of the Latin was basically we do that in English. There's still some Latin. There's still some Latin incantations. A little bit. They kept some of it, but most of it is in English. Indeed, yes. I mean, if you think about it, it was only afterwards when I realized the origin of the Anglican Church. The only reason why we have Anglican Church is because King Henry wanted to fuck somebody that wasn't his wife, and the Pope said, no, I won't give you divorce. So he said, well, I'm the king, I can form my own church, I don't care. So he formed his own church. And
so England was basically.
You know, the power of pussy, what can I say?
God damn it. God damn it. Konji is a bastard. You know, go better for Konji.
That's so.
Yeah. So teenage, growing up in Anglican, so where did religion carry you next?
Well, I mean, like every Nigerian, my generation in particular, but it seems like with younger generations, the hold is, I don't know, you tell me, right? The hold seems to be loosening a little bit, right? But my generation, I was raised to believe that there was God, that Jesus was raised from the dead, and hell was real, heaven was real, and so on. I mean, it was only when I left Nigeria, when I was around in my early 20s, right? When I left Nigeria, that I even understood that it was possible that there were people that didn't believe in God. It was just not an option to me. You know what I mean? It was not something I realized was even possible. You know what I mean? I've always had my doubts, don't get me wrong. I've always sort of questioned, right? Yeah. And like the things like, if God is perfect, then how did he make man so imperfect? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. I was the kind of kid that would ask these questions, right? But on top of all that, I still always believed that God was real and the Bible was real and so on. And I mean, so it was, I mean, when I finally left Nigeria, right? I mean, the circumstances of my leaving, right, meant that, basically, when I first left, I did against the approval of my parents, right? So my father in particular was very, very against me deciding to go. Because he wasn't. I basically left without his approval, right? And it's that kind of thing that you will do what I say, and if you don't do what I say, then you are wrong. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying, right? If you don't do what I say, you are wrong. So the strategy that he was trying to use to get me to come back, right, was to instruct. I mean, my dad's the firstborn in his generation, right? So all my uncles and aunties are like his juniors, right? Exactly. So he basically instructed everybody.
Father.
He instructed everybody that nobody was to lift a finger for me, right? Nobody was to help me with anything. Nobody was to communicate with me, right? So for first few years of me being here, I had all that influence and the constant reinforcement of religion was just gone, right? Wow. And it was at that point I started to actually entertain my doubts and sort of start to ask even deeper questions. Because really, I mean, you know what it's like. You actually, the guilt that you feel from asking all these questions, right? Is this actually true? You know what I mean? You can see it when you talk to other Christians now, right? That the way that they react to you is almost like you sow doubt in their minds and it makes them angry.
And
you know what I mean?
I
think this is the thing you have to interpret. It's not they attack you, but it's almost like a defense mechanism.
It is, yeah.
It's not you that they're angry with. It's themselves for thinking that you make sense. You see what I mean? That's the way I see it. They're angry with themselves because you're making sense to them, so they have to attack, right? Because that's the way that they can deal with their cognitive dissonance. That okay, this is making sense, but I can't allow it to make sense, right? Because so I have to attack the person that is trying to get into my brain because this person is sent by the devil to tempt me. So I have to attack back, and that's the only reasonable reaction. So that's kind of yeah. Anyway.
So you've been on your own now. You were not going to church, Abby?
Well, Sunday morning was for sleep from that point. You know what I mean? I had my full weekend finally, so okay, fine, I can. And
but you still believe now, Abby?
At that point, this is the thing. I mean, I know you're the ranting atheist. You're in your angry phase, right? I never actually had the angry phase, right? Okay. Because mine came in stages. I left Christianity before I stopped believing in God. Right,
okay.
Because I'm like I said, I always had my doubts, right? Yeah. And I started to go. By that point, I was questioning. I'm like, okay, this stuff doesn't make sense. It's not real. Is you know what I mean? It's there's no way that this all fits together, right? And I mean, what really sort of started the process of me no longer being a Christian, right? Was one of the first friends I made when I came to the UK, right? I was friends with him for a few months when I then realized that this guy was bisexual, right?
Okay.
And being a Nigerian, I mean, you know how homophobic Nigerian society is. Yes. I brought that all with me, right?
Yes.
And this guy was already my friend. And I actually said, if I knew that this guy was bisexual before, we would never become friends. I just wouldn't have entertained it, right? But he was already my friend. So I then had to ask myself, do I actually stop being this guy's friend because of the religion? Right, and that kind of made me. That was, you know what I mean. And I spent a lot of time ruminating on that. Do I just abandon my friend because of the? And in the end, my friend won and religion lost. I put it that way.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought, well, I mean, why is it wrong what he's doing? What actually is wrong with what he's doing? Right. And in the end, I couldn't think of any reason why it was wrong, except that that's what the Bible said.
Yeah.
Or that's what Christianity said, or that's what religion said, or however you want to put it, right? I couldn't find a rational reason to say that what he was doing was wrong. It's his business. He wasn't raping anybody. He was all consenting. He was all adults that he was sort of having relations with. So I mean, who am I to judge? So
that's one thing you brought up on this raping thing. Like a lot of, if you notice, a lot of cishet guys, the homophobia comes from the perspective of the fear of being raped by a guy.
Well, I mean,
like they're afraid of them doing what they usually do to women or something, like this whole harassment parole.
Seriously, if you want to teach Nigerian about respecting women's personal space, basically make him understand, how would you react if a gay guy was treating you like you want to treat women? Right,
and you just see the visceral reaction.
If they were sort of trying to sort of get into your space and, you know what I mean, they're forcefully trying to convince you, that's how you make women feel. So if you understand that, then you should respect other people's space as well. So that's kind of that's kind of how I think about that, basically.
Yeah.
So at that point, I started to. And because I had, the hold was lost on me, right? The kind of stronghold that Christianity had was lost on me. So I started to ask different questions. At that point, I started to understand that all the biblical contradictions and so on, right? It became clear to me clearer and clearer to me the more I researched that the Bible wasn't inerrant, that there were actually things in the Bible that were wrong, right? Like, I mean, we all know the order of creation in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
But then if you understand even basic science, you know that, for example, how can it be days before God created the sun? How does that work? You know what I mean? How does that work? How do you? What is a day? You know what I mean, right? But then they were apparently days before God created the sun, and so on, right? So yeah, so all that. I mean, Noah, the story of Noah's Ark. I mean, Jesus, they reigned for 40 days, and they basically, I mean, the ship that is about half this, even the dimensions that they gave, about half the
size of Titanic,
but then they managed to keep every animal in the world, right? Plus food for them for 1 year, right?
And they
penguins walking from Australia, from Antarctica, or kangaroos walking from Australia. They came all the way to Middle East, went on the Ark, and then they walked all the way back. Didn't leave any fossils on the way, right? How is that? So basically, the more I looked into it, the more and more I investigated, the more I looked into it, the more I was just convinced, hello, this Christianity is not true. But even after abandoning Christianity, I still believe that God exists, right? For a long time, I mean, this was, I'll say, in my early 20s when I finally abandoned Christianity. But I still, at that point, believed that God exists. I believe heaven was real, hell was real, and so on, right?
This period of internet was not yet at our fingertips.
Well, I mean, not quite. I mean, at that point, it was
premium users. Although where you were, internet was a little more accessible than here now.
I mean, to be fair, we had internet in Lagos before I left. It was still using dial-up, right? So it wasn't. It was slow as fuck. But it was dubstep when you're trying to log in. It was basically.
My God, we don't suffer.
So we in our house we still had internet in Lagos, but then in the late 90s, right? But like when I first came here, I didn't own a computer. I didn't the phone internet was non-existent at that point. So you still have to go to the internet cafe to log in and so on. So yeah, I mean, it all existed, but it was that kind. Seriously, I mean, now you're mentioning internet, just a slight tangent, right? I still think the biggest threat to religion in history so far has been Google.
Yes,
right? Because a lot of questions that people will be afraid to ask anybody, instead of asking, you just go quietly and check Google. What are biblical contradictions? And then you can in your own privacy, you can then absorb all this information, right? Instead of involving anybody else that you might be afraid to ask. So
now I didn't know they send anybody, Papa.
You guys grew up with the internet now.
I be Gen Z now, I be millennial.
Oh, okay.
See, those guys are our final hope.
Well, my generation is lost. I mean,
millennials too are lost.
I mean, none of my friends. This is why I'm still anonymous now, because none of my friends understand that I'm an atheist. There's a couple of people from my time at school that I know are atheists. I mean, maybe there's more, but I would imagine that if there are, they are also like me, so keeping it to themselves because yes. You know what it's like. You don't want to sort of be ostracized in your social circles and all that.
Apart from that, they don't still they don't still understand it. Like, I opened the dictionary. What does the definition say? It is what they have been hearing people. And me myself, I take it back to what made me to find out before I finally embraced the atheist term. Like I took the word as like hateist, like hater of God.
Seriously,
like,
before I left Nigeria,
serious, connotation like fear and panic.
I used to believe that atheists were basically devil worshippers. That was my understanding of what an atheist is. Seriously, that's what my understanding of what an atheist was. It was only, like I said, it was only when I left Nigeria that I actually understood that there were people that didn't believe in God. I thought at the time, right, that it wasn't so much that you didn't believe, you just rejected God to worship Satan, basically, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it was from that point. And so slowly, I went through different processes of trying to question. I mean, I had a very, very brief, so quote unquote, spiritual phase. Very brief. That, you know what I mean? That was,
but not religious.
That one. That lasted like 2 weeks or something. It wasn't very long because that was clearly bullshit as well. So I had a searching phase. Let's call it that, right? Okay. Well, okay, if Christianity is not real, then let's try to find the real thing, right? So and so on. So Well, I mean, I looked at I looked at the other Abrahamic religions. Islam was like, no way, no,
Too barbaric.
And then I looked at Judaism, but at that point, what actually put me off that was the kind of barriers they put in front of you to convert. So, like, no, not this. I looked at Buddhism a little bit, even Hinduism I looked at it a little bit, but it basically everything I looked at was clearly nonsense. Clearly, right? There was a phase I went through that I would, if somebody asked me about religion, what I would say is, I don't believe in magic. So if God exists, then there's a scientific reason, there's a scientific explanation for who he is and everything he does. So I went through that. I went through a phase when that was my response, right? And to be honest, I think I was already one leg out of religion at that point, but I just wouldn't accept it. Didn't want to accept.
That's final jump.
I didn't want to accept to myself that I am disbeliever, I'm an unbeliever, because there's that fear of hell that they put in you when you're a small child. That just, you know what I mean? Childhood indoctrination is very, very powerful. That's why they want to get kids young now. Yes, that's why they want young children.
As we go to hell.
Yeah, so I went through all different phases, and it was until my late 20s, early 30s that I started to sort of embrace the possibility that maybe all of it is nonsense. Maybe actually there is nothing out there, right? But what really put the final nail in the coffin, right?
Okay.
As in part of my searching phase, right, I found a video on YouTube again, Google and YouTube, the enemy of religion. I found a video on YouTube with Christopher Hitchens. I can't even remember which one. It was debating the Muslim. Right? And I think for maybe 1 or 2 weeks after that, I didn't socialize with anybody. I'd go to work, come home, and YouTube. Go to work, come home, YouTube. And you know what YouTube is like, right? You like this video. Maybe you like this one as well. Maybe you like this one as well.
They load you, they feed you, they give you, they choke you.
There is very little that Christopher Hitchens has done that I haven't watched, right? I basically binge Christopher Hitchens on and on and on. You know what I mean? All his and the way he put things, right? The way he sort of that's the word, eloquence. I mean, the whole thing with celestial North Korea, and I mean, that was one of my favorite.
Like, what the fuck is this?
Seriously, if you think about it, right, the way that heaven is described, how is it different from North Korea?
When he said that, guess which song that came to my head?
Go.
I said, "Come, let us bow down and worship. Bow down and worship." That was God is sick for millions of years. Bow down and worship Jesus our Lord.
Seriously, if heaven is as is described to us, how is it different? How is it different from people that wake up in the morning and sing praises to the dear leader, right? All day, all night, and then you go to sleep, and then you wake up in the morning and the same thing again and again.
And again. Mansion, or there's mansion where they've made for you. No mansion, no time to chill in your mansion.
So basically, it was essentially Christopher Hitchens, and then from Christopher Hitchens, I then discovered atheist experience. Right, nice. And the way that these guys would let, I mean, the approach that they had was, look, you guys say that God is real, so phone in and give us your proof, right? And everybody phoning in, it was just how bad the arguments were, right? How terrible the arguments were. It was just, look, we believe. In the end, everybody always seems to default to, look, we just have faith.
Exactly.
Right? But what is faith? Faith is we can't prove it, so we just believe. But then what else in your life do you approach with that kind of attitude? You know what I mean? We I don't know how it works. I just believe. You know what I mean? So in the end, I sort of worked out in my head and thought, look, you know what? I might as well admit it to myself. I've not believed for a while, right? I've been hanging on to some sort of hope that I might find what is real and in the end, I thought, you know what? This is just bullshit. It's all just nonsense, Jerry. So yeah, it was maybe in my early 30s I decided, you know what, I am actually an atheist. Fuck it. Right? I'm done. I am done. There's nothing here for me. I don't believe in any of this nonsense. So Yeah. So basically, because I went through these phases, and because I went so slowly, I didn't have the angry atheist phase at all. I just kind of woke up one morning and thought, you know what?
Maybe because it was kind of, like my own was like a 3 months process of, that's 2020. Maybe that's what now me like, what the fuck has Baba?
Yeah, you're actually very, very recent, aren't you? That is
2020, yeah.
2020. No, okay. In 2020, this was it was just before the pandemic had just started at that point, hadn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Because that's when I actually started my Twitter, right? The reason being, I had nobody to interact with that was also atheist.
Yeah.
Well, that's not completely true. All my non-Nigerian friends, that's something, most of my non-Nigerian friends in the UK, most of them they weren't raised with religion. Most of them, some of them were, but most of the people here were just not raised with religion. People don't give a shit, right? And most of my Nigerian / African friends, right, you can't talk to them about religion. You can't talk to them about disbelief, right? So Twitter then became my outlet. It was, okay, I will start a Twitter so I can, at that point, I actually did not realize the extent to which Gen Z, right, had embraced atheism and disbelief. And it was almost a shock to me. I actually thought, because of how I was raised and because of the world I grew up in and so on, right, I thought when I went on Twitter, right, I was expecting maybe non-Nigerians, maybe other Africans, maybe 1 or 2 people here and there might sort of engage. And there was you, there was, what's his name, Jide, there's Paulo, there's Onome, and all these people, wow, there are people that I saw, not only atheists, but atheists with their full chest. I'm like, okay, this is nice, I like this. So yeah, so I've kind of been using that as my outlet to sort of express the kind of things that I cannot express to my circles in real life. So that's kind of the journey, as it were. If I can sort of put the pin on it. That's kind of from A to B. That's how I've ended up where I am, basically. So yeah.
So was it this fear of hell? Was it automatic with losing God, or there was a process which you finally realized hell too was bullshit?
Again, it wasn't. There was never any one moment. It was all a very slow burn. I think with hell, right, one of the things that helped me with my fear of hell was realizing, 1, that hell is not actually in the Bible like we understand it. Okay. And 2, the actual conception of hell that most people have, most Christians have anyway, doesn't come from the Bible. It comes from Dante's Inferno. Right? And understanding that actually this is not biblical. How most people describe hell really helped me with the fear of hell, because I'm like, oh, well, if it's not even in the Bible and it's not real, then why am I scared of it, right? And me saying that, I always used to doubt, right? I tell you what, the school I went to, right? I actually went to, I say I'm anonymous, right? But then anybody who knows me and listens to this is probably going to know exactly who I am. But then at the same time, if they come and question me, like, why were you listening to a podcast called Ranting Atheist? Maybe there's something we need to talk about.
That's why they for them to have the camp to listen to this, they are coming to the dark side.
Exactly. So, I went to a private school in Nigeria. Right. Okay. And we had quite a few people that came from the north as well, from Kaduna, Abuja. We had a couple of people from Maiduguri and so on. So the school was about half Muslim, half Christian, right? And one of the things I would ask, right, or I would ask myself, right, there was a few of my friends who are Muslim, who are genuinely nice people, genuinely good people. Yeah. And I'd ask myself, so am I actually supposed to believe, right, that this person who I know is a genuinely good person is possibly going to hell for the only reason that he didn't believe the right thing? Right. And that never sat well with me. That never sat right with me. Right? You know what I mean? That never sat well with me. So yes, it's I forgot where I was going with that actually. I've lost my train of thought.
Yeah, with Dante's Inferno, the hell, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they're dealing with my fear of hell. So yeah, I've always thought that a just God wouldn't send somebody to hell simply for believing the wrong thing if they were a good person. Mm-hmm. Right. So there was always that. I always told myself, look, even if I don't believe, right, I will try and be a good person to people. I won't cheat anybody. I won't steal from anybody. There were some sins that some sins that it's like what can I say? I like pussy. You know what I mean? So there's some sins that you just
na bastard. You know they respect any god.
Hmm.
Yala ya anybody. To ba fe
Well.
dobo, wa dobo.
You know what it's like, right? So I told myself that, look, I will be a good person, and if there is hell, then and God is trying to send me there. I say, is it just for believing? Look, I was a good person. Well, why am I being condemned for thought crime? You know what I mean? So
exactly.
Yeah. So
thought crime really fucks with sometimes, man. Like you just see you just see something nice, like you don't like, go forgive me. Man.
You see, seriously, I mean, when Christians say, "Oh, you are only an atheist because you want to sin," right? Even when I was Christian, right? Even when I was living in Nigeria, right? I would it's not like I didn't. Not like I wasn't fucking it. But then I worked it out in my head that, look, all I have to do is ask for forgiveness before I die, and I'm fine.
Right? That gift cycle is what the religion depends on, so that you come. Do you want to do? If you want to rededicate your life, please step out and come back. That cycle
and everything was washed away, and I can go forth and sin for the next week, and then come back on Sunday and rinse repeat. Basically, you know what I mean?
We go to the story of choir. Say choir that they all 4 hours left, right. They do. You never want to say what
Christians they're such hypocrites as well. Nigerian Christians in particular are such hypocrites. You know,
that's an understatement, man. Oh boy. You know, like me, like when I was still going to do deconversion, by the time I was freshly out, my guy would just, I said, come guy, me and you now, the way we roll, the way we talk, we dey drink, we dey fuck. How would they know who's a Christian between me and you?
Exactly.
I'm doing the same shit I was doing before I finally said that God was just bullshit.
This is, again, going back to the point I made, right? All people that say you just want to sin, that's why you're an atheist. Look, my guy, I was sinning when I was a Christian, and I had the whole thing worked out, and I will just ask for forgiveness, and I can go forth and do it again. So why do I need to drop Christianity to do it? I was doing it anyway.
I tire. Nigerians, man. What are these juju? Juju?
Yeah, so
juju is like the anchor of many people's religious belief.
It's always, it's funny, right? Because I know my brothers. Both of my brothers are still Christian, by the way. I finally told my brother, I think maybe last year, that I finally told my brother, look, I don't think I believe this shit anymore, right? But both of them still believe in juju and so on. Right, and I'm not sure I was ever convinced about juju. To be honest, I'm not sure I was ever convinced, right? It was always, again, the whole come to my village. So there was always, somebody said, I heard a story. It was never firsthand. It was never firsthand. It was never, I saw somebody turn into a goat. It was never, I saw somebody turn into yam. It was always
somebody thief by pennies.
I tell you what, in the 90s, I still remember there was a scare in the 90s where everybody was terrified, and there were people going around stealing dicks. I'm like, what the fuck? Right? How? And it was never the person. It was never the person who had that dick stolen that would tell you that they had stolen it. Right? It was always somebody who heard from somebody, or somebody who knows somebody, or somebody's cousin, or somebody's auntie, or somebody's uncle.
Stories upon stories upon stories.
So the whole juju thing, I don't think I was ever convinced. If I'm being totally frank.
Okay, that's good. Because Phoebe, I've been seeing this guy Benga doing.
Oh yeah.
Vibrating the internet steady. He was even on radio today. See,
really? Nice.
Videos on YouTube. What was it? Nigeria Info.
Okay.
Nigeria Info is on their YouTube channel. There. Hey, people were just there in shock. Say, I mean,
it's good. It's good work that he's doing. To be fair, very good work that he's doing. I mean, do you know who James Randi is?
Yes, James Randi, yes. Yes. He has $1 million. Come and collect money. I'm sure that's the former chief service. Come and collect money.
So it's not even that, prove it to me. Like, look, if you can prove it, if you can demonstrate that this thing is real, and I will give you money. But just prove it is real, and nobody over all those years, not one single person was able to prove anything in front. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, what Benga is doing is good work. More power to him. You know what I'm saying?
Fantastic.
I'm glad he's doing well.
Yeah. So now, looking inward outside, that is looking from diaspora and at the situation of Nigeria. How do you see religion fucking us in the ass all this while? How the whole magical thinking, how do you see it? What's your perspective on that?
One of I tell you what, again, this is going through all my my experiences, right? One of my first experiences when I came to the UK, I was I like I said, I had no help from anybody. I was on my own, literally on my own, right?
Yeah.
And I was staying in it's more like a sort of backpackers hostel, if I can put it that way, right? Backpackers hostel. So you have people who are sort of traveling
like
from place to traveling from place to place. It was a very cheap place to sleep. You know what I mean? And at that point, that was all I could afford, right? But then there was this other Nigerian guy that was there, right? And he couldn't afford his rent, right? And the landlord came and he was confronting him that you haven't paid rent in 2 weeks. I need to pay rent. And he said, "This guy, I have a plan. Don't worry, I have a plan. I know exactly what to do, and I'll get your rent by the end of the week." Right? Do you know what his plan was? He went to his room, got on his knees, and started sort of praying.
Yes.
That was his plan. And this is that is basically Nigeria. People think that somehow
manna from heaven.
They're waiting for manna from heaven. Nobody is coming to save us. Nobody is coming to fucking save us, right? Until we stop with this magical thinking and actually start to apply ourselves. Yeah. Well, you know what I mean. Until Nigeria can break away from religion, we are going to be struggling. It's one of the major things that's holding us back, I believe.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's one of the major reasons why Nigeria is not just Nigeria, even Africa in general. I mean, but then what makes me laugh, right, is the colonizers that brought the religion to us, right?
Ooh.
That they don't believe this shit anymore. I'm
not tired them.
which is not to say that there are no Christians. Yeah, there are Christians, right? But the rate at which churches are closing because nobody wants to go anymore. Nobody is bothering. The only reason why religion is growing in the UK, in particular, which is why I know the information from. I would imagine it's the same in other places. But the only reason why it's growing here is because of Africans. Some of the biggest churches here are Redeemed and Christ Embassy and so on, right? All the sort of Anglican Church, the Church of England churches, it's all full of old people. You know what I mean? It's all full of old people. There's no... You know the thing. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
What the fuck, man? Yeah, man, that's what. So let me ask you some maybe do some apologetics.
Okay, go on.
Let me just say the lowest hanging fruits. Pascals Wager. How have you countered it?
Pascals Wager. Okay.
When I first came across it, you know it, huh?
I know what Pascals Wager is. Yes. Yeah.
So when you first came across, how did you counter it?
Right. It's funny because I actually I wasn't aware of Pascal's Wager. I wasn't aware of most apologetics until I was like 3/4 of the way out, right? So it was easy for me. I mean, with Pascal's Wager in particular, right? Why do people believe that it's a binary choice between Christianity and hell, right? So you've chosen Christianity, how do you know that Hindu God is not real? How do you know that Shintoism isn't real? How do you know that you believe in Christian because you made Pascal's Wager? Well, okay, you're betting on Christianity. How do you know that Islam is not real? How do you know that Mormonism is not real? How do you know? You know what I mean? So it's not if you make it the binary choice is one thing, but if you look at it objectively, right? Christianity is one of literally thousands of religions that human beings have made up, right? So how is it that you believe that you were lucky enough to be born in the right one? Because most people have the same religion as their parents. Most people, right? If you want to know what religion they are, find out what religion their parents are, right?
And
you know what I mean? And their location and their religion, their parents' religion. That is the most reliable way to sort of try and guess somebody's religion, right? So with Pascal's Wager in particular, it was the fact that I understood that look, it's not a choice between your religion and hell, right? It's a choice between several religions
and many hells.
So which one? How do you then choose in no circumstance? So that they had no impact on me.
The odds no sure. Tickets go cut. your ticket go cut in many places, over 4,000 places.
And the thing is, I mean, most let's say Nigerian Christians, most of them are atheists in every other religion. Well, let's not say atheists because they believe in they're theists in that they believe in God, but most of them don't believe in all these other religions, right?
Say them are fake.
So for me, I am the same as you. Just add one.
I don't add your own.
You know what I mean? If you want to know everything that's wrong with Christianity, ask a Muslim. If you want to know everything that's wrong with Islam, ask a Hindu. If you know what I mean, they all know the flaws in everybody else's religion. They can see it when it's talking about somebody else's. But your own religion, somehow in your mind, you have this wall that you build around it, right? That you touch not my anointed and all that nonsense. You can't get in from any angle. But for other religions, I can see all the flaws. I can see it. I mean, you see some Muslim apologetics and the way they talk about Christianity, and they will, you know what I mean? They will tell you, oh, this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong, and they can see it all. But then, you know what I mean? With their own religion, no.
But Muslim, it took me time to find out that. Islam was kind of derived a lot from Christianity. That's why they usually refer to the Bible when it favors their arguments. And that's when it's not favored, they say the Bible was corrupted.
Islam is basically Christianity plagiarized. In Christianity itself is Judaism plagiarized. Basically,
you see where I even describe them, the Abrahamics. Like Judaism is let me see now. Is Friends? You know the show Friends. Now, then Christianity is Joey. You know that show, Joey. Then Islam is How I Met Your Mother. A kind of reference, a kind of parallel to. They're like friends, but it's not friends. That's what I just say. Look at them. All of them are just dead. They see themselves. You know that because you see why I put Joey's backstory is from the Friends. That is the Old Testament. Then Joey's story is now the New Testament.
I mean, going back, you talk about Old Testament, New Testament. Going back to part of the reason why I abandoned Christianity, right? Yeah, it was basically the Old Testament has a lot to do with it because when I allowed myself to start asking questions and I started to do a bit more. There were several verses the kind of verses that your pastor would never reference in church because what lesson is he going to teach you from Leviticus? Hold on, Leviticus 25:44 to 46, right? Where it says. That was I think that one in particular was one of the last nails in the coffin, right? Where it says explicitly from the nations around you is where you buy your slaves, right?
Now to the American chattel slavery. They went to countries that were not near them.
The American slavers would quote the Bible. They literally quote the Bible and say, "Look, the Bible says slavery is right." I mean, you think about slavery in America and how they would not let the slaves read. They wouldn't let them educate themselves. They wouldn't give them anything, but they let them have Christianity. Do we really think that this was because they loved the slaves or because they thought
they edited the Bible, remove all the Exodus,
all the freedom,
so that they will not be motivated to escape.
Don't get any ideas, you know what I'm saying?
But slaves obey your masters in the Lord, even the cruel ones. What the fuck?
You know what I mean? And I forget who it was that said now that African and African American Christians, right? They only believe because they must have a very short memory, right? Christianity was not. It was, you know what I mean? It wasn't given to us because it wasn't given to us for our benefit. Right, even colonialism, it just made us easier to control. If we believe the same nonsense that they believe,
2.0 now.
It made us easier to control, and this is the reason why. I mean, look at Africa. I was saying about your parents' religion, right? When you're talking about geography, right? If you look at a map of Africa, which parts are Christian, which parts are Muslim, right? The way you can predict what religion your parents were is who conquered where they live.
Exactly.
Basically, where if it was in let's take Nigeria. If it was northern Nigeria, where the Muslims came to around that middle belt, everybody north of that is Muslim because the conquerors that only made it that far, and then everybody south where the Europeans came from the sea. Those are the ones that are all Christian, right? The Catholic what's it called, missionaries, they went to the east, right? And that's where all the Catholics are, right? You know what I mean? So it's nothing to do with the truth of it. It's just a question of which conqueror brought it to you where you live, basically.
You know, and these Black Americans, a lot of them usually It was from them I heard that I saying Christianity started in Africa. It was from Ethiopia or Eritrea. They just found us like these formula forecasters do not see somebody has planted this seed that they don't understand. You know? The point of somebody is the talking foundational American. I'm like, motherfucker.
Oh, Jesus.
As I said, it's from Ethiopia. See, from Ethiopia, from Eritrea.
That is just some bullshit, if you ask me. Right? Wait, was Jesus from Addis Ababa? What the fuck? You know what I mean? He came from the middle. It all came from around. I mean, it all came from around that Middle East, that sort of Israel, Saudi Arabia. All of it came from around that part of the world. And for whatever, the only reason why Christianity became the world's religion, right, is because somehow, Paul brought it to Europe, and then the Roman Empire became Christian, and they then spread it to everybody that they conquered, right? And then the Europeans that followed on from them then took it to wherever they conquered as they went around the world colonizing. That's the only reason why the world is Christian, right? But then they try and sell that to you as some sort of Christianity must be true because look how many people are becoming Christian. It was a miracle that so many people. It's not a miracle. They were just better at killing. You know what I mean? That's literally all it was. They're better at killing. When they kill enough people, everybody else has not been killed. Say, okay, don't kill us. We'll believe what you believe. You know what I mean? Oh, fuck.
Alpha, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
You back? You drop out?
Can you hear me? Can you
I can hear you now. I can hear you. I just... Oh, okay.
Imagine. So as I said, they bought all those propaganda. Those they look say, you people, this white supremacy is we keep winning. You people are still drinking from the Kool-Aid of Christianity. When the white nationalists, if they take over America, they go kick you fuckers out.
Well, I mean, the Christianity will not save you it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But
no more America if Christianity should take over that country. America is done. They don't realize it.
Well,
so, what advice would you give somebody that's going through the similar deconversion process you went through?
What advice would I give somebody going through?
Someone that might be listening to this now, they are going through that phase, like they can relate a lot to you, what you went through.
Right.
For some reason, they are still holding on to Baba God.
Okay. The first thing I would say is go on YouTube and type in the search box Christopher Hitchens and watch everything that comes up. Right? Just listen to it objectively. My advice is don't be afraid to ask questions because I think that is one thing that keeps a lot of people trapped. Right? Yeah. Do not be scared. Do not be fearful of it. You need to find a way to get yourself out of that fear of hell. Right? But I would say Christopher Hitchens is a wonderful sort of, find his book as well, God is Not Great. Right, read that book if that's the way you want. If that's the way you absorb information. Otherwise, go on YouTube and just watch everything that he's done. Watch him debating Christians. I say start from there. Watch Christopher Hitchens debating Christians, right, and see who you're convinced by. You know what I mean? So that would my short advice would be go on YouTube. I mean, we have all the information now, like you said, Gen Z and the internet. Because the internet exists, right? Then you cannot the control of information that the indoctrinators had is basically broken because they can't stop you going on YouTube in your own quiet time. Put headphones in. Nobody can see what you're watching. Put the phone screen down. You don't need to watch. You don't need to literally watch the people. Don't let anybody see and just listen. Right. Keep your mind open. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid of thinking that everything that you've been raised to believe might be wrong, right? And that's basically where I put it. Just go on Google, go on YouTube, go on WhatsApp, and just look for the information. Don't let anybody scare you into thinking that if you're looking, it's because you're being tempted by the devil. That's just. I mean, if Christianity was true, why do they have to use scare tactics to stop you living? You know what I mean? Ask yourself that question. Why is it that they have to use scare tactics to stop you living? It's either they'll scare you with hell, or what's the other one that they say? They say only a fool doesn't believe in God. So they try and make you feel like they try and use the sort of mind tricks on you and say, oh, the only reason you're asking is because you must be a fool. So you don't know it's all true. You know it in your heart and all that nonsense. Yeah, so ask questions, and find atheist experience is another good one actually. I like that format in that it's exactly. So
how will we run out for this Nigeria? I don't know.
I think Nigeria needs a version of atheist experience. Let these people call in, right, and try and explain why their religion is real.
Let their pastors call themselves. And that will sweet pass.
But I'm actually Nigerian church is. Have you ever seen? It was a documentary made by British Nigerian Shay something. I can't remember his name. Nigeria's millionaire pastors. Have you ever seen that?
I'm not sure, but I may have. I'm not sure. Maybe on Twitter.
I'll tell you what. I'll see if I can find it, and I'll also DM you on Twitter. Right? Okay. It's actually quite. He went around Nigerian churches, right, and he was seeing the bit that you don't see when you come to church on Sunday, right? And some of the meetings that they had, they were talking and treating it like it was a business, like they were sort of they were talking about expansion and marketing, and they were behaving like they were trying to find new customers. Right,
and their sales reps are not paid.
We're not paid in this life. They're paid, but not in this life. I mean, what kind of 419 scam where you tell somebody that, oh, you don't worry, you get all the benefits after you die?
It's an amazing Ponzi scheme, man.
It's ridiculous. But then, the thing is, most people, the reason why the hold on you is so strong is because of childhood indoctrination, because people that you trusted as a child, right, they told you all this stuff, right, and it's very difficult. I mean, even for me, like I said, part of the reason, well, I haven't actually said, but part of the reason why I'm still anonymous, right, is because I know that if my mother in particular finds out that I'm no longer Christian, it will break her heart, right, and even as much as I am disbelieving, right, I don't want to do that to her. You see what I mean? I still feel like so when my mother says praise God, I say hallelujah, because
amen.
I don't want.
Amen.
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody asked at one point, when was the last time you've been to a religious event, right? And my answer was, look, with family I come from, every time the family gets together, it's a religious event. You know what I mean? For what doesn't matter what we do, shall we pray? So everything starts with prayer, and then you have to sing praise and do all that nonsense. And I'll just go with emotions because you people raised me. So
the part when they say okay, let's begin to give thanks to the Lord. At least once they don't hear sound from me, they believe you are doing something. See, if I did very sinister, you know what I will do? I will run this podcast for 5 years, then give my life to Christ in a very flamboyant way, start a church. Meanwhile, every week I'm dropping videos and listening it on YouTube to show that I'm deceiving them, so that the day I come out, I'll show them the full playlist of the.
Seriously,
God damn it!
Christianity talk about atheists not having morals, right? The only reason why I've not started a church and taken all these people's money is because of my morals. You know what I mean? If I was not a moral person, I would have started a church yesterday. There is no
charisma and understand how to use the Bible to make a point.
And they will eat out of your hand, basically. Look at which pastor was raping people, and they're still defending it. Right?
Fato Ibona.
They're still defending him. So if you can do that, and you still have followers, I can start a church where I don't rape anybody, I don't abuse anybody, I don't, you know what I mean? I just do the normal sort of sing your praises and so on and so on. Okay, let's pass the collection. Let's pass the collection tray around. When it comes,
miracles.
It's not hard to do, is it?
Liquid
The only reason I've not started a church is because of my fucking morals. But if people tell me I'm the one I can't be moral because I'm not a Christian, fuck you.
Fuck them. Yeah, bro. So where can we find you online, Jari?
Okay, so my Twitter is Apostate African. Is at Apostate African if you wanted to sort of connect with what I'm doing. That is my main outlet. I see what you're doing, and I won't lie. I have considered at several different points whether perhaps I should start putting out content myself, whether I should do podcast or YouTube channel.
If you are good at writing.
Well, I mean, like I said, I've considered it. It's not something I'll say is impossible. So if anybody here is on my Twitter, just keep an eye out for that. You never know. At some point, I might decide to do something. But for now, my main outlet is Twitter. That is kind of where I express myself. I think part of it is fear of being discovered. Is part of the reason I'm not doing it. I mean, you still don't come out to your parents, Abi.
Not yet.
So do you have a plan? Do you have a plan for how you would respond if somebody in your family discovers this podcast?
No, my brothers are aware.
Okay.
My brothers are aware. It's just my parents and maybe their brothers and sisters.
Okay.
And if any of those ones find out, they are found out already. They will run straight to them and snitch. So whatever the case, I already prepared the speech in my head.
Okay.
I'll just tell them, this is what I am. I am not explaining to you. It is for you to know. You have known one way or the other, whether it's me that told them. Because trying to explain why to you will only lead to more disrespect and shouting. So I do not want to, I don't believe, and it is what it is. They now try to do all the infantilization, this thing. I don't know whether my head will scatter.
This, I mean, I've sort of the way I'm going to go about it, right? Is that look, if you didn't want me to think, right, then maybe you shouldn't have educated me. You know what I mean? Because you gave me all this, you gave me a good science education, right, to understand how the world works, to understand how this, and you expect me not to use the brain that you trained me to have. So I'm sorry, but this is kind of where we are, right? But I'll tell you what, for me, I can see that at some point, if they find out, right, it's going to be some sort of, we have to pray for him and we have to take him to church and they will all...
That's where fight will start.
If my family find out, they will all come to my door.
They should be praying for far. They should be praying for... my change.
Listen, it's not like I can't handle it, but I would rather not have the hassle. You know what I mean? I'd rather not have the stress of having to deal with that bullshit.
Never know what can happen. That's why I've just prepared mentally for whatever. Like what happened on Clubhouse. That's one idiot that said he wants to expose my identity. I'm like,
oh really? Okay. I didn't know. Really?
The motherfucker is an atheist too, but because he, as you see, we'll discuss the matter offline. But the guy I was just laughing, say, okay, so is it that you want my daddy to flog me, or what is your end game? Or I don't get it.
You know, it's funny. It's funny how as you have to come out as an atheist. I tell you what, if I was gay, I think it would be easier to tell my parents than they would be to tell them I'm an atheist.
I'm not sure.
And Nigeria is I think you'd be, if I was a gay Christian, I think that would be easier than a straight atheist. Honestly,
you are going to be put under prayer. It's demonic. Trust me. One way or the other, you're an atheist, is demonic. You are LGBTQ, you are demonic. They are just terrified about things that are not the norm that they've always known, and it's what the religion feeds on. Fear. Without fear, zero. That's what Benga is coming out. That Benga is no fear. That's why all of them are just crumbling, and they are just come to my village.
Okay, where's your village? Let's go.
Next thing, he went to the village. They now shifted goalpost. Say, who are you for the person to come and be display in front of you? I'm like, I love this game. You go post on the shifts. Nice one. People will learn. They will learn.
You have to ask yourself, do they actually, when they start making those excuses, are they saying that because they know it's not true and they're trying to deceive you, or they're trying to convince themselves that it's still true and this is why there's no manifestation of it?
Rationalization now. It's the same thing that Christians do that the people that are justifying juju are doing, and Christians to also do that for the juju, because they need, I have to say, they need a Thanos for the Avengers to be useful. Thanos needs to
That's
be
a
there.
very good way to put it, actually.
Yes, now,
without Thanos, there's no point in Avengers.
Without Thanos, the Infinity Saga was useless. That's why this new phase now, they are trying to prop up, what's his name? What's his name? Is he Kano? What's that his name? Or the new bad guy now?
Which one in
MCU now, the phase 4 now, the new bad guy is even.
Oh, they need a new antagonist.
Yes, it's more terrifying than Thanos, because this one has to deal with multiverse and all these things. So they need a good villain. Just like Black Panther. Without Killmonger, Black Panther would be useless. Avengers would have failed if Loki was not up to the task. So you need a good villain. And unfortunately, one thing I even noticed, I was on the Clubhouse room yesterday. And, the title room was Christianity a white man's religion, and an Indian man I think it was a Christian, I wasn't sure, but the way he was describing it, he now went to the point of saying that their own gods and that their ancestors were practicing witchcraft and all these things, but Christianity came and changed it. I'm not like, this is the same thing they did to our African traditional spirituality.
It makes you easier to control. They colonized India the same way now. Although they didn't seem as successful in converting the Indians as they were with Nigerians. Not as successful because there's still nearly 1 billion Hindus, right, in India, right? That they have their own problems with their own religion that they have sort of.
They themselves are pushing nationalism and all that, but I used to listen to some podcasts and like, these Hindus too are crazy. Okay, no problem.
Where they basically were washing themselves with cow piss and all that nonsense.
Fuck that shit. Bro, it was nice having this talk with you, man. Thanks for sharing your story.
I appreciate you. No problem, man.
All right,
no worries.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you have not subscribed, please consider subscribing on Apple, Spotify, Google, and many other platforms. You can check out the pod page. The link is in the show notes below. Then if you'd like to share your story, please reach out via Twitter or Instagram, or you can send an email. The details are also in the show notes below. There's a link that links to SpeakPipe. You can send a 90-second message. We'll be glad to hear from you. Anyway, have a wonderful week, and I'll catch you on the next one.